I am good to
All
go. I
right.
am good to go. Well, Kathy, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. And just like I mentioned in my email to you, thank you very much for your commitment to being involved in some of the initiatives and mission that Black Orlando Tech has here. So first and foremost, I want to start off by thanking you.
Oh,
So
well,
thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you for having me here. I'm just like so glad to be able to be here and have this conversation.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So I normally I'm gonna welcome everybody. I'm gonna wait a couple moments for a few people to trickle in. This is a live discussion, so we're gonna be addressing questions as many of you come in. Even if you have questions after the live, you could definitely send them over, and we'll make sure that Kathy is contacted, because I'm very sure that there's a lot more involved and a lot more information to receive than just this 40 to an hour minute discussion. So first and foremost, I want to start off by introducing Black Alumni Tech. So there are some people that are going to be chiming in that don't really know who we are. We started about 3 or 4 years ago because we saw that there was a deficit in the amount of like social interaction in the social ecosystem here in Central Florida, focused on getting more Black entrepreneurs and professionals into tech. So we started to do some meetups. We started to do, curate some resources, and that turned into Black Orlando Tech. We started to get the support of the city. We started to get the support of local professionals and entrepreneurs, and we started to get the support of amazing entrepreneurs and resourceful individuals just like Kathy. So I want to go into introducing Kathy. So Kathy has, where did Kathy go? So Kathy is one of the founders of Deep Work Capital. Kathy has been featured in Orlando Business Journal and a number of other periodicals here in Central Florida. And even most recently, one of the biggest reasons too that we have Kathy on here is because in one of her features, she mentioned that they're looking to widen. I forgot the actual term that you used. I think you said widen the funnel by diversifying, who is receiving funding. And of course, we all know that there is, some challenges here to address. And so, Kathy, welcome. So if we could start by you giving us a self-introduction, that'd be great.
Sure. My name is Kathy Chiu, and I am a managing partner at Deep Work Capital. Deep Work is a early stage venture capital fund. We focus on technology companies that are, at the startup. We usually invest in the C to Series A stage, and some of that might mean something to you, or maybe not. But we'll be discussing it. But fundamentally, we help entrepreneurs advance their companies.
Love it. So I know this live is it's basically entitled "The Nuts and Bolts of Funding." And so some of the topics are going to be, of course, the basics of venture capital, the basics of funding. Can you give us sort of like your nutshell of how a business owner should perceive funding?
Yes. So the way I think of it is, I think of it as a timeline, so this a business from beginning to what we call exit, meaning the point you sold it or when it become really big, it went IPO. How do you fund it? Because at the beginning, if you think about a big business, you don't make profit from day one. You got to fund it, because you got to build something, or maybe you need to spend some dollars to hire people. So at the beginning, it's actually a money sucking entity, and hopefully you turn that around real quick, because you can't suck money forever before you go to business. And so even when you become profitable, at some point you might need to take on more money, because maybe you thought, I need to maybe buy a machine or something to make this business go high order. And so the way I think about it in today's conversation is we can just kind of go through the different stages of how a company gets funded.
Love it. Yeah. So let's start from stage zero. What does that look like?
Stage 0 is your own money. The first dollar is usually the founder's own dollars. And people say this because yeah, you might think, oh, wouldn't it be great if I have like, a rich uncle who will fund me? It's like, be careful what you wish for. Think about that Thanksgiving, So the first dollar is usually the cheapest money is usually the founder's own dollars. And the reason is it comes with no strings attached. If you lost it, you can go out and make more money. You can go take a job and catch up. So that's why people always say, when you're thinking about how to start a business, usually at the beginning, you got to prove a concept. Maybe you have this great idea, but you had it in your head. Can this thing really be created? Maybe you need to run to the material store or go to Home Depot and buy some materials and actually put together a prototype. Those monies, you do not want to go to your rich uncle and say, please invest in my idea right now, because the uncle is going to say, you have nothing right now. Your company currently is worth just your idea, which is about nothing right now. So if I give you even $100, I have just bought your company and you don't want that. So at the beginning, the first dollar is always your own dollars. The second dollars are, you've now got some prototype and you've got some ideas and you've got a hunch. Like, let's say you got something like, I think the market will buy this. And I've even got a few of these made and I think I was going to go test it out. Well, at this point, you have very strong convictions, but maybe you had already spent all your money creating these gadgets and, but you believe in it, but there's no way for you to prove it. You cannot go to a person who doesn't know you and say, hey, guess what? I believe this will sell because I've seen it in people's eyes. The only people who will believe it, maybe your grandmother, people who love you. So then the second round is for friends and family, meaning people who believe in your dreams. And frankly, even when you fail, they are like, I know I might lose my money, but I'm going to do it because I love you and I'm going to help you. And so those are the friends and family round. And then after that, you might have what's called an angel investor round. An angel investor is very wealthy individuals who, may say, you know what, it's my money. I will invest in it because I like the guy and I do think he might, make some, really great progress. And for whatever reason, sometimes it's because they believe in the cost. Oh gosh, when I was young, if only somebody had this gadget, I could have been, I'm already rich. I'm going to be 10 times richer. Or maybe, oh man, it took me such a long time. It was such a hard life until I finally made it. If I just had this gadget back then, I didn't have to live so hard. So they might have all kinds of reasons, but those are called angel investors. Now, the difference between friends and family and angel investors is your friends and family love you. And even after you fail, hopefully they still love you. Your angel investor does not really love you. They might like you, okay. There might be a cost. There might be some reason. But it is a business transaction. So those angel investors are there. And some of them may be able to keep on funding depending on how rich they are, right? Then eventually you get to these what's called institutional round. And so the different institutions, these are people who manage money for a living. So it's not even their own money anymore. They may be fund managers, right? And so they have a different level of standard because it's no longer like, oh, this is my money. If I lost it, I'm mad, but oh, well, I'll get over it. They're managing other people's money. They have promised other people, I will take good care of your money. I'm going to go look for good opportunities. So they're looking at you very differently. So those are institutional funding. Now, inside the institutional fundings, you have different kinds of people that usually start with how much risk they're willing to take and also how big of a check they will write, right? So you would start out with venture capitalists. And even amongst the venture capitalists, there are micro VCs all the way to, kind of much later stage VCs. And then move aside from that. Let's say your company is now making a profit. You're like, I'm a profitable company. Why do I want more money? Well, this is what we're talking about. Sometimes you want growth capital. You can keep on going like this, but you're like, wow, if I just buy that one machine, I could, immediately be making 10 times as much. I want that. How do I get that? That's when you go to private equity, which are, later stage than VC. They take less early stage risk, but then they have growth risk and they're willing to write you a big check. So they want to see a lot more evidence that this thing is working. So move that aside. So private equity, also different stages of them, right? They come in all different sizes. Boom, you got to the point where you might just sell. You know, there are bigger companies out there who might buy your company. That's called an exit. If you sold, you know, mergers and acquisitions, that's one way to exit. And when people say exit, what does that mean? That means you finally got your money out. But more importantly, you also, because you may not care. You may say, I love this. My dream, you know, I'm now the CEO of this company. I want to do this forever. Well, still, how about those guys that you took money from? You got to get rid of them. So that's called an exit. You're going to get your investors out. And sometimes people say, I kind of want to get out too. Well, great, you exit too. Because once you exit, that's when some of these exited entrepreneurs say, well, now I get to go be a venture capitalist. Or now I get to go be an angel because now I don't want to do this anymore. I can go and fund younger entrepreneurs behind me. So that's when people exit. Another way to exit is, let's say if everything else lines up, you may also go public. And if you go public, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm sitting on all these shares. Hey, I can now go and, you know, sell it on the public market stock. So those are kind of the lives of venture, how things get funded throughout the life of venture. Now, given that I'm a venture capitalist, I suggest we focus on the earlier stage because that seemed to be the audience here as well. Nobody is out there trying to figure out how to go IPO, right?
Right. So I guess that's so I know there's sort of like a mentality shift that has to happen when there's an entrepreneur that thinks of entrepreneurship just being about starting a business, but then going into this mindset of creating something that's going to have a value that you can ultimately sell. So what would you say that frame of mind should be for like sort of an early stage entrepreneur? Because I'm pretty sure you get a lot of people that, you know, they come to you and you're like, all right, well, you know, talk to me about how much your company's valued, and they're like, well, I make $100,000 a year. Like, how do you get them into a frame of mind that you see promise for, you know, somebody being a good candidate to fund?
So I think maybe step number one is just to say, you know, what kind of funding? Because so far we're talking about it from a exited, right? I talked about it. Some people don't want to exit sometimes. So let's talk about a concept. It's called lifestyle business. And the minute I say that word, people say, oh, you mean I'm not serious, I'm a lifestyle. But lifestyle business is actually absolutely as serious as anything. You can have a company that's doing $100 million a year and still be a lifestyle business. By lifestyle, all it means is that the founder's goal in creating this business is to achieve a certain type of lifestyle. That does not mean, you know, private jet and a boat and all that kind of stuff. It could sometimes just mean, you know, I created this for my family and my entire family will work in this business. And this is our entire village will now work in this business. And I'm, you know, this is what I want to do forever. That's called lifestyle business, meaning you're not looking at an entrepreneur's journey, which is build it, grow it, sell it. That's venture, you know, right? And otherwise it could lifestyle. So you could say, hey, you know, let's talk about some of these. Let's say if you have a professional services company, you know, let's say you create IT consulting. You know, you go into everybody's small and medium businesses and help them set up their computers infrastructure. And when you become really good at it and you go, wow, I can get all this business, I can work it all, then you start hiring people. And before you know it, you've got a cadre of people. You've got this 2,000 people shop, okay? But you love doing this. You never take a dime. Why? Because that business pretty much flows cash from day one. Because day one was just you. And it's almost like you're getting a salary from your clients, you know, except it wasn't a secure salary. Nobody is saying I'm giving you a paycheck every month. You're saying, you know what? I eat what I kill. And I'm a real good salesman, so I'm going to get all these clients, so much clients that I couldn't even serve them all. And that's when you build a business because you start hiring people. That's a lifestyle business. And mind you, lifestyle businesses are could be absolutely just as lucrative for the founder. It's just the type of business that doesn't make sense to go get equity investors, meaning like those venture capitalists we're talking about, the people who want like 5%, 10%, 50% of your company. Because look at that business. You're not creating a gadget. So you don't really have an opportunity to say, wow, if somebody give me $1, I will buy this machine, then I would create 10 gadgets. What you're doing is you're selling your hours and you only have 24 hours. You know, and then when you hire more people, they also only have 24 hours. So there's your company will grow at a slow and steady pace. right?
Mm-hmm.
But then essentially what you're selling is the talent and the time of these people, both yourself and your employees. And because of that, you really actually don't want to take money unless you really
Right.
have to, right? So
Right.
in a case of a lifestyle business, and a lot of service businesses are in that category, what you look at is you grow, and you bootstrap. Bootstrap meaning, my first case, I did it, and now I have $2 extra. So I hired another guy. Now I have $4 extra. That's how you
Right.
grow. It's called bootstrapping, meaning
Right.
use your money and use your revenue. Essentially, is the best way. And so
Right.
you never dilute it. You still own 100% of it all the way to the end because you never owed anybody anything.
Right.
Another way to think about it is, and some people are very scared of the idea of debt, meaning
Mm-hmm.
borrow money. Oh my gosh, that's more scary. No, the more scary one is your uncle who wants to give you $1 and buy 50% of your company.
Right.
So sometimes, sometimes that makes sense. If you think about it, let's say, if a venture capitalist come, their expectation, and there's like a sing-songy way, like venture equity, private equity, they say, what do I want? Well, I want 3 to 5 years, 3 to 5 times my money. So
Right.
it's 3 to 5, 3 to 5. And if you did the math, and many of you maybe have a technical background, can just kind of do the math, and you'll get a range of, wow, what percentage are we talking about? It's pretty high percentage.
Right.
You cannot possibly get a bank debt that will cost so much. So sometimes if you have, let's say if you have a factory, and you're like, well, what I'm funding is really the fact that I have to build up an inventory, but then I have pretty predictable sales. But
Mm-hmm.
if I am growing, my inventory is always bigger than my sale right now. So I'm always owing money. But yeah, you're always owing money by 5 days or 30 days or whatever, right? So when you have something like that, that's called working capital. The best way is actually to go to the bank and say, look at my growth. It's pretty predictable. Look, I even have inventory. Worst comes worst, you can take this and go sell it yourself. Then you become bankable. So if you're bankable, you do not want investors. You actually want the bank. So I think the question you asked me, and I went on and on. The question
No, it's good. It's good information.
How do you think about money at the very beginning? And my first consult was, think about what kind of business you really are. That's step number one.
Right. Okay. So now in Black Orlando Tech, and just I would say within, well, I don't want to speak for the entire tech industry, but there are a lot of tech companies now that one of the reasons why funding is a big thing is because they're creating a lot of intangibles. It might be software, it might be a solution, or it might be an algorithm, right? So how does within funding within the tech industry, how do you what would you advise someone who has come up with a good idea? They believe in the idea. Mm-hmm. They haven't put together a full plan yet, and they really don't know what the next step would be to validate the marketplace for the idea. What would you say they should do? Even I would say even prior to seeking funding.
Prior to seeking funding, actually, let's go one more step. Prior to quitting your day job, if you got a day job, hang on to it until you've at least done some basic thinking about, this is a great idea, but would it sell, and is there a market for it? So there's always been all kinds of entrepreneurship framework that people can go. There are books out there. If you go online, Google, you'll come up with all kinds of. The most popular one lately is the Lean Startup, or the Canvas method. And the Canvas method is no magic. It's basically they have this one sheet with like all these boxes, and inside the boxes was, think about this topic, think about that topic, who's your channel partner, who's your customer, who's your supplier, and so when you think through all that, you've at least thought through some of the most basic elements of a business. And if you can't understand how to answer that question, that tells you, well, you haven't figured it out yet. And until you figured it out, at least all those pieces, you don't yet have a business idea. You have an idea, but it's not a business idea.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I know, so there's of course a number of different types of funding. You mentioned, of course, friends and family, yourself. You mentioned going to a bank. You mentioned angels, VCs. Is there any case where someone was a good candidate for bank, like they were bankable, like they were a good candidate for banking, but let's say you've acknowledged that there could have been more opportunity that they didn't acknowledge that could have made them a better candidate for, like, let's say a VC or an angel investor? Or do you think that it's normally just one or the other, depending on what stage they're in?
Even when a company is VC fundable, when they get to the point, usually you are, so the way you know if you're bankable, first of all, let's talk about, are you bankable? Bank wants to see that you have revenue, that you have profit,
Right.
You want to know that you can pay them back. And if you're saying, well, look, I'm funding this inventory, so they want some predictability. They want a story that helps them understand, oh, this is how I'm going to get paid back, right? VCs are, so if you are not bankable, then you have to look for other ways of funding. And the two path will be, can I bootstrap? Can I get a customer? And then I fund this based on, this deal funds my next deal. And every deal gets increasingly bigger, and I hire more and more people. That's called bootstrapping. Right. So if you want VC, then just know what they're looking for, right? They are usually looking for, crazy trajectory. So you need to think, well, why does this give them a crazy trajectory? And here's the thing is, most entrepreneurs obviously are very optimistic. If you're not, you wouldn't be doing this, right? But just understand what it means to tell a VC that you have that trajectory. It wasn't so much like, because I think so, don't you believe, because everybody thinks this is a cool idea. But, the method in going and creating that story to an investor group, and whether or not this is VC or angel investor, same way, right? It's actually pretty scientific, right? You got to start out with, well, what's the market size? If I was extremely successful, had all the marketing dollars possible to sell this thing, how many people are even out there that could possibly use this widget? So for example, this widget works with a specific kind of computer, and there are only, 3 million computer of this kind out there. You're not going to sell more than that, right? Because another computer doesn't fit. Then you have to create a different product, and maybe you can, but that's not this product. Right. So you need to really think about. And sometimes that's a really hard problem. It's like, I don't know, I created this, great, purple lipstick, but how many people out there want purple lipstick? Well, now you got to be all doing creative math. It's like, well, this became a big fashion. And then, when this color came out, so many lipsticks are sold. Most lipsticks are sold, 200 tubes, and then they become not fashionable anymore. I got to come up with a different color. So there are a lot of creative math. And you say, whoa, then I'm just making up stuff. It's not really, I think maybe part of it is like, are you convincing yourself even, right? First step is convincing yourself. And a lot of it is also, people talk about top down. Top down means, look at this huge market, of lipsticks, but then you got to whittle it down to, but there are so many different colors and, the age group and whatnot. Or bottom up. Bottom up means that, let's say you created a widget and you go, oh, I know for sure this huge customer, IBM, was going to buy this widget. So poof, if I just did this one deal, I can get this much revenue. If I did this other deal, and then you build it up, that's called bottoms up. And so by top down and bottom up, you'll come to some range of the business opportunity size.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we do have a question. We have a question here by Dwayne Hemmings. He asked, what sectors or technologies do you think VC firms will be looking to invest in the future? So I think that kind of ties into what we were just discussing. So what sectors or technologies do you think VC firms will be looking to invest in the future? And you can get as specific as possible.
Sure. I obviously know that everybody talks about AI, they talk about kind of the AR, VR. So let's just stick with those two for a second and talk about what those really mean, right? So people talk about artificial intelligence a lot. And I would just say that, and when people talk about artificial intelligence, there are really two different kinds of categories. One is anything that had some sort of intelligence. People say, oh, that's artificial intelligence. Maybe I've automatically answered a email and I knew how to sort the email to, delete or answer, and you call that artificial intelligence. Right. It could, but then those are not terribly interesting necessarily. What is really kind of hot is the ones that involve any sort of machine learning right now. Machine learning means there's like a ton of previous cases of a specific decision. Let's say you look at a face and say, oh, is that a male or a female? for example, right?
Right.
And so the way to train the machine is, so there are already established machines out there. So the next phase is, okay, so we have various algorithms and suppliers of that, but then nobody's really got enough data passed through them so that the machine actually learned how to do it. So
Right.
any sort of machine learning will require there's a lot of data. So a lot of these data-driven machine learning algorithms that actually ends up in an applicable business use case, those are what people will need to be looking at when they talk about AI. Now, go to another side, the more entertaining part, the AR and the VR. At the beginning was really for a game use. People think about it and they think about that when the Nintendo game came out and people are playing Go with all those games everywhere. But now you're seeing use cases that are more business to business. And so that becomes a more predictable path, because you can't predict what the consumers are going to buy, but you absolutely can predict use cases. Maybe it was training a doctor how to do surgery using these AR VR training algorithms, or it was an engineering usage. So things like that are recently what I'm seeing a lot of. And obviously, you'll also see, and I don't want to keep on going on and on because I could totally talk about all these cool clusters of deals I'm seeing. I would though encourage folks not to think too much about the trend, because the minute you think about the trend, it's already in the past. So maybe more thinking about what specific sector you yourself is in, and then think about what are the usage that are, where is the industry pain is what I'm trying to.
So switching gears a little bit from sort of advice, well, not just advice, but stuff on, like how to get funding and types of funding. Can you speak a little bit to some of the mistakes that you've seen business owners make with funding, regardless of the stage? What are some mistakes that you've seen? And I would say, because our audience, a lot of them it's primarily tech. So what are some mistakes that you've seen, and you don't got to get specific, but that you've seen tech entrepreneurs make when it comes to acquiring funding?
So, I could do like a whole totally different hour to talk about the mistake you can make in taking the wrong money, taking it from the wrong people or taking it under the wrong terms. But that's a totally different animal, and we'll have to. Maybe we'll get to it later. But let me start out by the mistake of not getting it. Let's say you already know you want to take in money, but somehow you're just not having any luck getting it anywhere. Mm-hmm. I think number one is so basically I'm telling you, mistakes people tend to make in the pitch. One is to kind of think that you want to jump straight to the guy with the biggest check before you're ready. And the reason is that if you think about, what where you can go and tap, you don't necessarily want to, because pitches get shop worn. So once you're a deal that's been going around town and everybody knows you, and people say, oh yeah, that guy doesn't have his story figured out, then it becomes harder. People, I always listen to people who come back, but then I also in one look, if I go, oh, well, he didn't really make any progress, I don't want to keep on having the same conversation, then I become more hesitant to keep on having the same conversation over and over and over again. And I think a lot of investors do get that. And the thing is, I know the entrepreneur journey is a little nerve-wracking, right? So you go and you talk to someone, he says, well, you're not quite ready. He's like, okay. And so you went and you sold this one tiny little customer. You came back and say, am I ready now? And so avoid that tendency. You should really buckle down and think about, why am I raising from this person? And we talked earlier about, for example, should you be talking to a bank? Should you be talking to someone who maybe believes in you? Should you be talking to your own, should you just say, you know what? I can always go out and make more money. This is the amount I'm going to go and put into this and risk it for me. I'm buying this from me. And obviously that's scary because now that's your money. But if you don't even dare put it in, are you sure taking it from your uncle, it's going to be any easier? It may be tough.
Yeah, right.
So those are things. And another one is at the very early stage when you're in the, depending on what kind of widget you're building, if it has a lot of social good, let's say if you're creating a medicine or if you're creating some therapeutics things, there may be grants out there. And so, this is the NSF and, the DODs, who out there the society might benefit from. They may be willing to give you dollars to do research, right? And investors are usually very scared of funding a research project because you're like, oh no, this is science fair stuff. But guess what? Other people are the opposite. They're like, once you're too commercial, they go, oh, private would fund this. We're the government. The whole point of our existence is to fund things that have high potential, but nobody will touch it because it's too risky, too early, too whatever. So you may also look and say, and especially if you're attached to some sort of universities or research institutions, there will be opportunities to get grants. That's another possibility. And another thing is, if you happen to be in one of those businesses where you're like, well, you know what? It's not really rocket science, but I just do this thing really well. Then think really hard about, can you get that very first anchor customer? And can you negotiate the heck out of the payment terms with your vendor and the payment terms with your customer, such that you don't have to fund that 1 month when you have to put in the dollar. And and sometimes the customer and the vendor, if the customer wants your stuff badly enough, sometimes they'll pay you what's called NRE, non-recurring engineering dollars, which means, you know what, you build this and they might want some ownership or something, but I will fund this. I'm your first customer. You got to build it to my liking. And after that, okay, I guess I'm right, but you can go ahead and sell it. I don't care. So sometimes, so those are the initial. And the reason I say all this is because when you do all these, your company just becomes more and more valuable. You're proving out a case. You actually have something. So when you go in front of the venture capitalists, you go, I actually have negotiating chips, because frankly, if you don't come in, I have other people who might come in. If you don't come in, I might just bootstrap this, so you want to put yourself in a situation where you're not just kind of like, have PowerPoint, well, shop my deal, So the question is, how do you get some incremental value before you shop it?
Gotcha. Okay. So I guess so you've seen the most mistakes happen because people haven't followed that incremental value ladder very well.
Never take outside money before you need to.
Gotcha.
Always go as far as you can without taking it. And that means if you haven't done like a canvas or something, then you absolutely are not ready to talk.
You're not ready.
There are actually some incubators, accelerators, if you just type incubator, accelerator, all across the state or even out of the state, depending on where you are, that you could also go to. And they will walk you through those steps. So you can go do it in a class-like setting. So you feel better. And you have people to talk to. Entrepreneurship is very lonely. So sometimes you actually want other entrepreneurs in it, even though they're a different product, whatnot, at least you can share some commonalities.
Right. Love it. We actually, on that topic, we actually have another question from a Christopher Green. He said, we have our MVP done, but we don't have traction yet due to paying the developers. So I'm assuming that they had to pay developers out of their own money to be able to create the MVP. What would be the best approach to pre-seed or early stage investors?
So if you have a product, at least you can do a demo. So let me very quickly break down the way a typical investor would view the risks. Obviously, we talked about they want to see that there's potential. So you have to prove that case. But when it comes to risk, there are 4 different kinds of risk. First of all was technology risk. By having an MVP done, at least you've minimized the technology risk. This thing can be done. And so you can show people. And then the second part, though, is market risk. It's like, but in terms of market risk, if you don't have any traction because, your product, frankly, cannot yet be rolled out, you got to ask, well, how do I convince people, including yourself, that there is a market for this product that I am in the middle of building, right? Because it's halfway baked. And so you can't really just throw it out there and see, hey, look, 1 million people signed up overnight. Now it's like, I have to prove that, but how? well, ask yourself, why do you believe it? There's got to be some reason. You must have seen some evidence of it. Maybe you saw a news article or whatnot. So the way to approach pre-seed and early stage investor right now is, good news is you can do a demo, I hope, given that you have the MVP. So you can say, this is what the product actually looks like. And maybe with that, people can envision better how a user would actually use this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, and if I can kind of add to that, there are some entrepreneurs that play sort of this chicken and an egg game when it comes to investors, and then certain resources aligned with the success of the business venture, right? I.e., let's say there was a company that said, hey, I wouldn't do that deal, but I'm doing it because one of your investors is John Smith over here, right? Like, have you seen that game being played very well within the tech space as it pertains to having an MVP that needs to be validated?
Let me understand. So you're saying that if you got one investor, then so there absolutely are angel investors that are almost like celebrity investors, because people know that they maybe had a few successes, and they usually love to tell the stories of, oh, the one time I got 100x, never mind all the other deals that lost money. But yes, certain investors are strategic, but usually it's not so much because they have a big name. It was usually because they can get you into your first few customers.
Right.
So if they have associations or maybe just contacts such that they can get you in, that's extremely valuable.
Gotcha. Okay. So I know one of the so of course with this being Black Latino tech and just sort of the state of our society right now in the world, I know there's been a very big push on diversifying, not just employment and diversifying certain elements of like pipelines such as education and academics, but also within funding. So as a partner at a VC firm, like, what are some of the things that VC firms are looking to do, or funding entities are looking to do to sort of diversify or create sort of a grander landscape for funding opportunities for people within the Black community?
So I think number one is really connections. I have to say, so we had, even before the recent events, we have been thinking, well, gee, this is so odd. Every time we meet entrepreneurs, a lot of times they're just not that diverse. And for a while earlier on, there was a big wave of concerns like, where are the women? And then it's, where are the minority founders? Right. And, I think, I have to say, we're not there. We're striving, but we're not there. And even amongst my shop, maybe because I'm a woman, we have a slightly better record with finding women founders, and we try very hard to look at kind of diverse founder set at the top. So I use the word funnel, which a lot of people hear me use, because the way a VC work is we have to know so many people, tons and tons of entrepreneurs, and then then some of them turned out to be lifestyle businesses, others are bankable, and then we go down, and then turned out, oh, these ones have the kind of characteristics that we can fund and help, and then it goes down. And so if we look at 100 deals, we might ended up finding one that was perfect, both ways. Right. So problem is, when we look at it, it was like diversity is not even on the top of the funnel. We just don't know enough people. The people we know are not diverse enough, and that is the first order problem we're trying to find. Now, so that's why I'm very, very grateful that you invited me to this conversation. I'm hoping to make some friends here, and you get to know more, entrepreneurs that are in the Black Orlando tech community. But I really do think step number one is, so there are a few groups. I don't know if everybody is familiar with, there is a group called C Funders that actually went out and raised a very dedicated Black fund. And it was a very small fund, but their theory there was, remember we're talking about how the first dollar should be yours, and then the second round is kind of the friends and family. The theory was that, what if Black founders systematically have less access to that friends and family round? Is that possible? And if that's possible, They set up a fund. Now, obviously, that's a very small fund because the friends and family round inevitably is a very small round, right? Your grandmother and all that stuff. So there are people who are doing that. And then there are people who are, trying to, think about, well, are we being fair? But in how we assess deals. I've actually thought about that quite a bit myself. I really don't think the problem is in whether or not we're being fair. Our problem, it may come down to that later. But the first problem is that there are just no Black founders in our pipeline on the top of the funnel.
Right.
We don't know enough people with diversity. We don't know enough diverse background people. And, if I think about all the people that come in to pitch, most of the time, it was the same profile. It was, the non-diverse founders. So, so I think first order for us right now is to just get out there and find, groups like, exactly. And until we know enough people, we just, can't solve this problem.
Yeah. No, and of course, like our group and first and foremost, thank you for that. What we're doing is, in order to solve that portion of, because it is a pipeline thing as well, not many. We don't have many, I would say, I can confidently probably say Black entrepreneurs that come from a family of like entrepreneurs, So a lot of times it's mindset, it's mindset reprogramming, and so a lot of times they're sort of starting from this level that requires them to kind of go uphill a little bit versus the the person that saw their father start a multi-million-dollar engineering firm, who had a father who had a multi-million-dollar manufacturing firm, so we're definitely starting. But now our group, we're trying to solve that by doing like these tech startup series, and we're doing workshops, and we have amazing individuals like you coming and giving us insight. However, there still seems to be more that's needed in this community. But a lot of it, I believe, is mindset. So pipeline wise, and as it pertains to especially funding, because a lot of Black entrepreneurs, or within this community, a lot of times we say, well, we can't do certain things because we don't have the money. How can we, and I'm going to say we, being the leaders within the Black tech community, and yourself, how can we change that answer from, well, we have less access to money, to we have a lot more social and intellectual capital that we can prove has value? What should we do there from a community standpoint so that more people are entering into the top end of your funnel?
Part of it is outreach, and that's on us, right? When I say us, I just mean me, but I shouldn't speak for everybody. People should be out there trying to meet more, groups like yours, and diversify our funnel, so we actually have a shot at finding, deals that will fit. I would say this much: if you're talking about mindset, and I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Is the question that, well, but we still don't get access to capital, or is the questions like, what? Don't assume we won't get access to capital. If it's the second one, that's easy to answer. If you're worried about people are assuming they won't get capital, and therefore they were kind of like, defeated themselves before they tried, I would say, yes, it is. Life's not fair. If you had a father and a grandfather who had all, exits, then of course you kind of start out knowing a whole lot more about how to get this done. Right. But I would also say, though, the benefit is that the people who came from really tough backgrounds also have a grit that you can't buy. To be honest, right. Having a grit is so if I look at the entrepreneurs and kind of the characteristics of the ones that made it, there's like intellectual curiosity, being really smart and all that kind of good stuff. But the two characteristics that's almost always there, whether or not they're introverts, extroverts, or whatever level of, intellectual, capacity, one is the ability to get things done. Have you ever met like really smart people but just couldn't get anything done? Those are not
Yeah.
good entrepreneurs. Good entrepreneurs get things done.
Right.
And it's just the ability to, okay, what's the ending? I gotta drive to that ending.
Right.
And the second kind of is just a comfort to go, okay, what language do I gotta speak? So let me go speak that. And by that I don't mean, because like I think people are worried about like, oh, is it that I can speak the good old boy language? It's not so much that. It's like, for example, entrepreneurs. If an entrepreneur has come to the point of realizing, okay, I'm not a lifestyle business, I am not, bankable. I really do have a high growth, widget that I was gonna, raise $1 and it will 10x my business. Then yeah, you're a candidate for, say, venture capital. Then you need to, the good thing to do will be kind of like, what do they care about and what are the language that they speak? And so for example, if you go through the Canvas methodology, then immediately you have a bunch of vocabulary that is how the investors are used to hearing. They'll ask you questions in those terms, and now all of a sudden you're ready to speak their language. And I think
Right.
because at the end of the day, they want to make money. And so the point is, how do you communicate that to them in a language that they get?
Right.
Versus the language in your head that is, I could just see this. Why couldn't anybody else see it?
Right. And do you think that with that, do you think part of that language needs to, or part of that approach needs to be able to be okay with hearing no? A lot of, because that's,
it is a numbers game. So
yeah.
the more people you talk to, the better shot you got. And the way I think about it is like, this whole process, it's like, it's not that the harder you work, the more you get. It's that the harder you work, the more raffle tickets you get. And then there's an element of luck too, but you certainly can increase your own odds by keep on doing that. But, work smart, because like, in certain situations, let's say if you figured out exactly how to describe your business and all that stuff, then, maybe the raffle tickets is for every minute you put in, you get 5 raffle tickets, versus if you're, saying, oh, I've got a great idea. And then you run and called everybody before you do your homework, then maybe you're going to get 0.5 raffle tickets for all the time you spend, because, it's not the easiest, it's not the path of least resistance.
Right. No, I definitely understand. And I know, we have a comment here. Our outreach has to stretch outside of our culture. Our community has to be shown that we can be successful, because they still don't believe it. Your mention on mindset is dead on. I use the term perception when teaching, but definitely the same definition. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it is mindset. I know there's and there was another comment. A lot of time it's hard to go to friends and family, of course, because friends and family, especially within certain communities, are depending on you to be the one to help them. This is a great conversation.
I agree. Not everybody have the same sets of friends and family. Some people,
Right.
Every single friend can write you $1 million check. Life's not fair. I wish I had friends like that. Other people just don't have that. But there are paths. Sometimes they're grants, sometimes they're opportunities. So, and I don't want to speak and say one size fits all. This is the way you do it. Obviously, every situation is different, but there's usually some path. And worst comes worst, it's come hell or high water, I'm going to bootstrap this.
Yeah.
So, maybe I grow a little slower, but I'll get there.
Yeah. So I know one thing that we hear a lot is never quit, never quit, never give up. Oh my gosh, never give up. Now, when it comes to certain ventures, at times it's not a matter of quitting; it's a matter of letting go of something that may not have been the best idea. At what point do you think someone's there?
I think before talking about that, maybe just check the simple, it's kind of like before driving, check your do you have gas, do you have whatever, some of the basic things that I'm sure like some of your other sessions might talk about, like stuff that basic entrepreneurs should do, checklists. Do you have a market big enough? Do you have so if you go through those checklists, go through your Canvas, go through your lean startup, those basic methodologies, catch the big mistakes first, and then after all that, then you got to really kind of turn around and say, well, why isn't it working? And don't wait until the last minute and go, I now die a death of exhaustion. All the way along, you might say, well, you know what? I thought this was going to happen this way, but let's say you're unlucky. Let's say there's a regulatory change. Let's say you were trying to,
or coronavirus.
or coronavirus. Something like that happen. Then you go, okay, how do I hunker down and try to stay alive? And if I can't stay alive, how do I close it down so that I minimize the impact to myself, people around me, so that I can maybe just get a job for a little bit and then come back out again and strike again. Right. So, right. And that, it's happening all over right now. A lot of entrepreneurs are hard hit. And the ones that, can probably come out of this are the ones that figured out, okay, how can I conserve cash? And sometimes maybe conserving cash means letting go of that lease, fine, I'll shut down, I'll get a different brand then, and I'll do it again. So.
Yeah. So, and I see we're at 50 minutes here. We're getting great questions, great conversation. So with this flow here, we are 3/4 way through the year, 2020. I think there's going to be a book written. And I think the title of the book is going to just be 2020. When it comes to what 2021 is going to look like from a landscape of funding, what do you think that's going to look like? On every level? I mean, there's interest rates and stuff like that are going to start adjusting most likely in January or so. You're going to see things. The markets are going to start to readjust. What do you think? What is your outlook for 2021 as it pertains to business owners leveraging funding to grow their business, or at least acquiring it?
I could tell you from a venture capital perspective, obviously I'm not qualified to speak to, everything economics, but I would say that from if you have a business that is looking for venture, let's talk about venture and maybe, banking, So from a banking perspective, the challenge is, like maybe if you had a dip in revenue or something, now it becomes harder for your metrics to meet. So you got to manage cash really carefully, which may sometimes mean making some hard decisions. You go, oh, but this little project has such a high potential. You might have to mothball it for a while, just stay alive, keep that cash, So I can tell you from a venture perspective, it's not that we're not doing deal. We absolutely are. But when we look at the deal, we look at it very differently, because in the past, I might say, oh, this deal, as long as, they can sell to 200 customers, and that will prove that there is market traction, then we can go out and raise funding from the next round of, the later stage guys with bigger funds. Right. Well, I don't believe that anymore. Now I'm like, well, the bigger guys, guess what? Bigger guys is trying to take care of their own existing invested companies, because they're worried that the next big guys behind them won't come in. So guess what? Now I got to worry that those big guys won't come in. So I'm thinking, when I think about the company, not only am I thinking about how do I fund you to that first step, I'm thinking, well, then people might not come in. I might have to put in money, again. So that's what's called reserve ratio. The reserve ratios are going up. So people are holding on to money because they're scared that they're going to fund it further than they expected. And so what does that mean as an entrepreneur? So, well, yes, it does mean that VCs are a little bit more cautious, but it also means, though, that if you can really say, I can think through, it's like a chess game. I can think through a few steps. I'm going to get to this point. At this point, look at all the comparables. This is what people are funding. I think we can, when we get to that point, we can go out and this valuation, and these are the strategics, and I've got customers behind me who may want to come in. Anything you can do or any, thing you can bring to the table that would address some of those fear.
You're right.
You would really stand out. So in some way, it's an opportunity if you have it. If you don't, then it's harder. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely, I think 2021 is going to be, I think New Year's, that New Year's celebration is going to be amazing for 2020.
We all just want to get rid of it.
Just throw away this year. So no, I think
like this.
So no, that's amazing. So I mean, I know we're gonna start to wind down. I'm gonna kind of direct it to the audience. Anybody that has any questions, please drop it into the comments. Kathy's been doing an amazing job answering questions and even adding even more insight and value to to this conversation, and we're very appreciative. Because I would say this is, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest takeaway that you did mention a number of times is when it comes to funding, a lot of times, especially on the VC level, a lot of it is connections. I can't tell you how many and you know what? I'll be very transparent. I'll be very transparent in the statement that I'm going to make here, and it's primarily just out of experience, and it's out of going through this. So 4 or 5 years ago, there was an organization called Orlando Tech, right? The Orlando Tech Association, right? Technically speaking, not to say that this is what we did, but our name just has the word Black in front of it. Right? Yeah. So we have Black Orlando Tech. We saw an entire segment of people that we've never seen at Orlando Tech. Yes. Some of the founders of some of the other co-founders of Black Orlando Tech, that was one of the things that we first discussed at the table. We sat there and we were like, we're the only ones that come out to these Orlando Tech events, and we know there's more of them. We know there's more of us, Black tech entrepreneurs, founders, or just professionals. But with that said, there's something within our there's some type of friction within our community where we're drawn to others who look like us, right? So there are some VC firms that their boards are Black or people of color, and their focus is finding other people, Black professionals, Black tech, entrepreneurs, and they tend to gravitate towards them primarily because they look like them, so got it. So I feel like there's a little bit of friction there in terms of kind of just having this influx of Black founders who are in environments where there are other individuals like yourself who are great stakeholders to say, hey, I could be resourceful. I just need to meet more of you, so I feel like there's definitely two sides to it. Many of us have to, come out a bit more.
Let me throw something out. So in my group, Deep Board Capital, every Friday we do this virtual coffee. And it's a very non-judgmental, we do not need you to come in here and pitch us, no deck, no nothing. Right. And every, week, we usually have a wait list, right? And every week we just put 3 or 4 people in the conversation. And, one of our partners will be on there, and, some other funds will join us. And really, it's just a play. It's meant to emulate when people talk about the Silicon Valley, where you can walk down the street and bump into VCs in Starbucks. It's meant to be a virtual version of that. So if anybody think that could be helpful, just for them just to meet VCs and say 2 lines of, this is my business, should I even talk to VCs? Something like that. If that's helpful to anyone, we're there. Every Friday, we try to do one. As long as there's 3 or 4 people, we just throw one up and send out a Zoom.
Right, and I love it. We need to participate more. So we'll actually, if there is a link, we're definitely going to share that and add that to our distribution. So again, so that we get more representation, because a lot of it's about representation. So and here in Orlando, I mean, we're one of the biggest cities in Florida. Well, no, just Central Florida is a very big community in itself, just as Tri-County. But you do have some other areas of Florida that has a far more vibrant, diverse ecosystem, so definitely excited that you all have that event so that we can participate and get more people, get more visibility.
Yes.
So Mike Hardy said that would be amazing. We got excellent question and answer. Love it. So I guess, Kathy, as we start to close here, I know there's of course takeaways, right? You meet with hundreds of entrepreneurs. You have just through your experience, you have a lot of exposure to things that people do right, people do wrong, as it pertains to capital leverage, as it pertains to just overall business, or overall entrepreneurial ventures. What are some nuggets, or what are some takeaways that you think would be valuable to the Black Orlando Tech community?
So I think founders, just going down this, just having the kind of the courage to go down this path is already a very special set of people. I also would just say, anytime you assume that people won't want to hear it, challenge that, because chances are they just don't know, and they just need to be educated.
Right.
I personally would love to meet a lot more Black founders, and I've tried to do more diverse founders, but at the end we have some diverse founders, but none of them are Black. And so
Right.
I really would love to have a chance to meet more of you.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
All right. All right. Love it. Love it. Love it. Anybody have any other questions? Any other? I know normally whenever we do these lives, normally we get questions like right as soon as we hit the end button. So I want to make sure that we don't miss anybody, because we do have a number of people on here. So give me one second. Would love to. All right, Christopher Green would love to connect with everyone, not just the guest. Here's a way to connect. All right, cool. So Christopher just dropped his Bitly link in there. His company is called Game Drive LLC. Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, no, absolutely. We definitely we're working in Black Atlanta Tech. We're working on and this is also another conversation that I think we should definitely have, and we don't necessarily have to have it online per se, but we could definitely have it offline. So I know within oh man, what was the name of the book? Oh my goodness, I'm having a brain fart. Was it Feld? Brad Feld?
Brad Feld, yes, he's
Brad Feld. He wrote that.
Yep, Techstar.
Yeah, he had that book, and it said that within every community there's the eaters, the feeders, and the leaders, and there's sort of segments too. And so within this community, like we're doing what we can to sort of serve as like the leaders, right? To try to lead and to try to mobilize the community as much as possible. Then we have individuals like yourself who have a lot of resources to be able to fuel various ventures. And then we have the entrepreneurs that are, of course, they're being fed, right? They're coming in, they're coming in with their great ideas, and they're growing them. As I would consider you a leader and a feeder, right? What are some things that you would say we could probably do, even better as it pertains to being leaders, here within the Central Florida area, and especially from a collaborative standpoint? And it could literally just be because again, this conversation is here. We're gonna have other conversations, of course, various ways to partner. But I definitely love to be transparent with a lot of our audience so that they could see, hey, these conversations aren't just surface level. We do plan on taking some next step to doing something on both ends, on our end and on yours, to be able to really add more people to that pipeline. So do you think it would be good for us to create a white paper? Do you think it would be good for us to create a database of entrepreneurs? What are some things that we could probably do to help with filling that pipeline a bit more with Black founders?
I think white paper, events, some sort of an outreach that is cross, the different groups, would all be very helpful. Because I really do think, step one is we just got to create more connections, because right now I think there are a lot of connections within each, niche that people are comfortable with. But, in order for this whole community to flow a lot more freely, and for resources and investments and whatnot to all start exchanging a lot more freely, anything you can do to break those boundaries. And, if it's a white paper that everybody will read, that would help. That's great. If it's, like you said, somehow maybe we should go start a Facebook group. I don't know. Something. Yeah. Or maybe you already have one. I should just go join it.
Right. Yeah. No, we'll definitely invite. No, we do have a Black Atlanta Tech, Facebook group. It's not specifically just for tech entrepreneurs, because our audience, a lot of them are tech professionals as well. So we're working with people on just getting certified to get into tech. So we're doing a lot of stuff. Not everything is tech entrepreneurship within the group, but I definitely think a cool group would be
or some sort of LinkedIn page where we can all go join. And
we are going to get more active on LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn is where it's at for this purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get active more on LinkedIn. That's a promise, because I don't think we've been that active.
Tech have a LinkedIn page?
We do. We have a LinkedIn page.
Well, I will
However,
put a link to it.
awesome. Yeah, no, we'll definitely share with you. And yeah, it hasn't gotten the attention that the Facebook one has gotten, but we're definitely going to pay a lot more attention to it.
Yeah.
So no, love it. Kathy, thank you so much for your time. This is invaluable. I mean, I can't tell you how valuable this is. Just to have you on here and to share your thoughts, share your insights. So so if we can, in closing, if you could tell us, and I know we dropped the your link here. Is that the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah. So when you go to our website, there's like a place where you can, hit and it becomes inbound. But you know what? You could also email me. I'm at Kathy@deepworkcapital.com. And if people, but usually when you're actually, or LinkedIn is also another good way to find me as well. Usually when people have a business plan or a, like if they actually have a pitch, then emailing me is very helpful. But like, for example, if you want to get on the Friday coffee thing, then going to our website where we have a place you can click and go on the inbound mail. That will be there because that gets to our analysts who actually, will put people on, wait list and the coffee thing.
Love it. All right. Okay. Well, Kathy, thank you very, very much. Again, we are very appreciative of your time here.
Thank you.
So we're gonna close out this portion, and I'm gonna end it here with a couple of bot announcements. So give me one moment. Let me open up a few things here. So I'm gonna divert. Rose said, "Great conversation, very much needed. We may need to do a part 2. Yes, we're gonna do a part 2. So, all right, cool. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I have some announcements here. All right, so and again, thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
So for everybody listening, Black Orlando Tech, we have a number of other events coming up. First and foremost, if you're on this live, please make sure to share it. Okay. I can't tell you how important it is for you as a community member to share this information. Don't keep it a secret. Okay. We are bringing experts on this live so that we could share this to our community and we could broaden our own reach and also the reach of this information. Not having the information and the connections should not be an excuse from this point moving forward. So we do have some upcoming events. One of them being our September event, where I'm actually hosting, and the topic is becoming a digital sales geek. So I'm going to be speaking on understanding the fundamentals of utilizing technology to be more human, be more social, but at the same time to sell more. So I've done a number of projects where I've leveraged technology to help organizations with selling more. So I'm going to be speaking on that in September, and we're going to have the date and the details for the event within the Black Orlando Tech page and the group and all of our other mediums. And another announcement: anyone that is interested in cybersecurity can apply for a scholarship to earn a certification with New Horizons. So we're going to be distributing some information on that as well. If you're interested, please email our primary bot account at info@blackorlandotech.org, or you can just send our page a message directly. Again, that is if you're interested in learning more about opportunities within cybersecurity and gaining a certification through and with New Horizon. Please contact us through one of our mediums, either through emailing us or through sending a message directly to our Facebook page. All right. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Kathy, thank you for providing so many gems on this live, and we will see you all on the next meetup. Take care.